For the second video in the Manifest Destiny module, we're going to talk about the state of Texas and how it goes from being a part of Mexico to wanting to be a part of the United States. Texas belongs to Mexico. Okay, in 1821, Mexico gained their independence from Spain, and to settle this giant territory that the country of Mexico got from Spain, they're going to invite Americans to move into Texas. And by 1835, Americans in Texas outnumber Mexicans 10-1. Eventually upset over taxes and tariffs and laws against more Americans being to move into the area and anger over slavery, the Americans in Texas are going to rebel in 1835 and start their own country, the Republic of Texas. The Mexican army, under the leadership of a man named Santa Anna, is going to come into Texas to stop the rebellion by force. This is where we get the great battle of the Alamo. 185 Texans are going to be in this mission, a church area called the Alamo in what today is San Antonio, Texas. And for 13 days, these 185 Texans hold off a Mexican army of over 5,000 soldiers. It gives the Texas Army time to form. It gives Texas the time to write a constitution. And at the end of these 13 days, the Mexicans storm the Alamo. The Texans inside are all killed and massacred. And at the end of it, it becomes a battle cry for the Republic of Texas. Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna is the Mexican George Washington. He is going to lead the Mexicans in getting independence from Spain. He's a general. He's a politician. He's the president of Mexico for over 11 times, and he's the man who is leading the Mexican army and trying to stop Texas from leaving. Soon after the fall of the Alamo, the Goliad Massacre becomes another one of those inspirations for the Texan army. The Mexican army is going to massacre over 400 Texans after they surrender after the Battle of Goliad. This, along with the Alamo, is really what inspires Texans to fight against Mexico. The War of Mexico, or the War for Texas independence, comes to an end on April 21st, 1836, when Sam Houston, the guy who Houston, Texas is named after, surprises the Mexican army at San Jacinto, and the battle only ends up lasting for 18 minutes because Santa Anna's army, the Mexican army, was resting. The Texan army is going to kill over 700 Mexican soldiers and only lose 9. And in the process, Santa Anna is captured, and he's forced to recognize the independence of Texas. So Texas gets their independence. And for 9 years, Texas is its own country. Under the leadership of Sam Houston, they are an independent country. But through those entire 9 years, they are going to want to join the United States as a state. Remember, most of the people living in Texas are people who had moved to Texas from the United States. Northerners are fighting this in Congress. They're afraid of an unbalanced Congress where there are going to be states, where there are more states in Congress who have slavery than states who don't have slavery. And we're starting to get this debate in the country over whether slavery is a positive thing for this country or not. So Texas is a slave state. Texas would enter as a slave state. So because of this, they can't get the votes to enter the United States. In early 1845, though, Texas is admitted to the Union as a state. The United States annexes Texas. And with the Oregon country totally controlled by the United States at the same time, we have now completed this manifest destiny of where we're stretching from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. Let's also talk about California and Utah. A flood of people start coming to California in 1848 after gold is discovered in the area of California. This is where the term 49ers come from. The San Francisco 49ers, the NFL football team in San Francisco, is named after these men who traveled into California. The majority of these are men. Women are not coming. It's a man's world. Also, we see a large number of Chinese immigrants and Mexican immigrants as well flooding into California. A new church, a new Christian religion has been created in the United States called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, better known as Mormons, created by John Smith in the state of New York. Mormons are not treated very well in the towns that they live, so Mormons are going to start moving west. They move around this Great Salt Lake in Utah, and they start, led by a man named Brigham Young, and they start kind of a civilization out in Utah around the Great Salt Lake. Santa Fe is also a major destination for people who are traveling west. Santa Fe is a part of New Mexico, which is considered all the land between Texas and California. Mexico wanted to trade with Americans, but they didn't want to allow Americans into their country because of the Texas situation. So as the trade continued, more and more Americans moved into this territory just naturally, and Mexico wasn't really able to control it. Even Santa Fe today feels different from the rest of the United States. I've been to Santa Fe. When you visit Santa Fe, you don't feel like you're in America. You do feel like you're kind of in Mexico. It's an interesting location. A lot of Spanish is spoken there. It is a really, really neat city. But today it's part of the United States, but this time it was a part of Mexico. But through trade with America, more and more Americans are going to move to the city of Santa Fe.